Welcome.
Welcome to yet another edition of But That's Not Important.
Right now.
Right now. That's not how we rehearsed it. That's not how we did it. We didn't rehearse it very well. We didn't do it in unison.
Did you ever see this movie with Johnny Depp? The black and white movie with Johnny Depp. Edward. Did you see Edward?
Yeah. I have not.
You've never
seen it.
You should watch Edward. Edward is fun. Edward, two things in Edward. Edward said that he sat down in a cinema watching stock movies.
Yes.
And he was telling the old projectionist, he said, I can make a movie just out of stock footage. And he literally sat down and told a whole story of what he was seeing on screen. And I thought, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. You know, the buffaloes are being run off the Indian reservation, and the army needs to be called in because the aliens came down. Yeah, that kind of off-the-cuff story. But one of the funniest scenes in Edward was that he was shooting a movie on Hollywood Boulevard, and you need a permit to do that. And he's like, and he saw the police coming, and he's like, quick, keep going. All right, okay, cut. Run! I don't have a permit. And they just packed up everything and they ran down the street with the camera. And it was hilarious, you know? Yeah. But that kind of, you know, okay, so sorry guys, welcome to yet another episode of But That's Not Important Right Now. And that's not important right now, story.
That's not important right now. No, that's not.
You guys are probably wondering, what the hell have you gotten yourself into by clicking on this podcast? And
yeah, we were wondering about that ourselves, quite frankly. We don't even know what the hell it is we're going to be talking about.
You've entered the twilight zone of advertising. This is the dark corner. This is the dark corner of advertising.
Isn't that like being redundant though? The twilight zone.
Twilight zone. The copywriters moaning in the nights, you know.
God, yeah.
I used to work in an agency with.
Used to work in an agency. Yes, I used to work in an agency too.
Yeah, but now John is on the radio, and I am unemployed. No, I'm self-employed. Please hire me.
He's self-employed, but he still wants to get some extra dough, and I don't blame him.
Extra dough. I love the challenge. So if you're interested in bringing me on to help you with a project or do some help with a consultancy, I do that. That's what I'm doing these days. So a lot of the agencies, you know, kind of bring me on board for a little short-term one-off.
There we are.
I'm working on chickens right now. I'm working on a project with the University of the West Indies Veterinary School, and we're doing work on training people how to run pluck shops and to do those kind of things. So that's what I'm right now working on.
So it's all about cocks and hens.
Oh God.
I'm just saying.
We have a funny story, but that's not important right now. But we want to just kind of bring in, because he's been waiting. Our guest today is also a guy who worked with us at the agency, but he's much younger than we are. We're the old farts.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're just the old farts. We don't know anything.
This is our friend Randall Sumer Singh. Randall is also another copywriter. We've had a lot of copywriters on board, but copywriters are the ones with all the stories. They're the storytellers, so that's why.
That's true. That's true.
And the artists that I've invited are very, very gun shy about speaking. So we'll not get into that. But Randall came in from the media. He was working at, I think it was The Guardian.
That's true.
As a reporter or as a features writer, something he was doing, or editor. I'm not too sure, but we'll ask him. And he transitioned over. And as I was telling Jared before we started the show, our little pre-camera thing, I said, one day Randall was just there. this little guy, you know, this young guy who's just looking at the world with, that scene in Puss in Boots, where, you know, because he's a cat, he tries to bamboozle guys by showing you. That was Randall. Randall's just looking at everybody with these big wide eyes, and
looking so wild-eyed. And
I would not say cute, because that's very wrong. But
yes,
I would say that Randall had, and Randall and I ended up working very, very, very closely together towards the end before he left, and he and I left around the same time of the agency. So he was in the agency for about. Well, I'll let him talk about it.
Yeah, let him talk about it. So
but we don't want to just let it ramble. Now, last week's episode, which I hope you all listened to, was very, very good, but it's very heavy. And we appreciate those who have listened so far to all our episodes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Yeah.
Sure. But we're going to try to liven things up a little bit and try to bring in some more
levity,
because Ronald doesn't have a clue what he's getting himself into. So we're going to bring on Randall. I'm going to admit him. Let's see if this is going to work, because you know our Zoom and technology. And by the way, both of us are sitting on in our respective houses because of the unspecified virus.
Because of the unspecified, yes, pampalam. Yeah, we understand.
Location. So we're very guerrilla with this thing. So
right.
Right. So I'm bringing in Randall now.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if Randall's going to be talking to us pretty soon, and we're going to say, "Welcome, Randall! Hello,
welcome, Randall. Hey there."
Welcome to That's Not Important Right Now. Randall, you're mute.
Welcome.
Click your little mute button.
Is he?
Unmute yourself.
We're not hearing him.
There you go.
Where is he?
He's connected to you again. Oh, he's doing a job. He's doing a job. He's doing the boxing. He's doing the boxing. While Randall sorts himself out there, we were just saying who Randall is. And yeah, he was like a little puppy dog, you know. He can't say anything now to say.
Randall was pretty much like a babe in the woods. He didn't know what the hell was going on around him.
He had no idea what was going on.
Had no idea, not a clue. But eventually he got his. Randall, where are you?
Randall's audio is Randall.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
I can hear you now.
Hey, what's up?
Randall. Now I have to edit a whole chunk of this thing out. Thanks a lot, Jared. It's all Jared's fault, by the way.
No, it came through on speakers and headphones for some reason.
I see.
Randall and his awesome mic. So Randall, introduce yourself to our listeners. We have 4 listeners.
Hey, 4 listeners. You guys are awesome. There's not much to introduce. I'm Randall. I worked with these guys for about, I think, 4 and 5 years each. And I've been studying marketing for the last 4 years. I'm about to graduate, bachelor's in advertising and marketing.
Excellent.
And that's about it. Well, I guess I studied in New York and now Florida. So.
Well, you got stuck in New York because
I was stuck there with COVID.
Oh, we don't say COVID on our show.
No, we don't say that. We just say the unspecified illness virus.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Edit that one out.
No, that's fine. That's fine. The reason why we don't talk about it because we want people to kind of not think about it.
Yeah, to forget about the troubles for a while.
But Randall, we are most interested in this episode. We kind of want to talk about people. Now, in a couple of episodes before, we talked to people who had just, I think Asma, was it? No, it wasn't Asma. It was Tracy. I talked about their first day on the job.
That was Tracy, yeah.
And like we had said before you came on, you were the youngest person that I knew working in the office at the time. I'm trying to remember. After you, we had younger people. We had, what's her name, who came in, and she was much younger than you. But at the time, what I enjoyed is one day you were not there, and the next day you were there, and you disappeared. So,
pretty much.
Rana, how did you get the job at the agency? How did that happen?
It's actually a story that I tell fairly frequently. It's a funny story. Basically, I was with a girl at the time, and this girl was kind of fed up of being the breadwinner in the relationship. She was like 5 years older than me. She was a molecular biologist working and stuff, and she tried to set me up with a job. She saw an ad in, I think it was in the Guardian paper, I think. And the ad was from McCann, and she said, "Well, you're a writer. Why don't you go here?" I was like, "I'm a journalist. I don't do anything to do with advertising. I don't know what they do at ad agencies." I was clueless. But I applied, went through 3 different interviews. One was with creative director at the time. The other one was with the 2 writers, Asma being one of them, actually. She was someone who interviewed me. And lastly, I came in and the creative director told me I needed to speak to someone higher up, his boss, because he couldn't really justify hiring a 20-year-old kid, as far as he was concerned, with no experience at all, only, some journalistic experience, to just hire them as a writer. So when I came in, no one else was there except for this tall white guy I didn't really recognize, and I think you all know who I'm talking about. And he let me in, and I was like, he's like, who are you here to see? I was like, I was told I need to see someone higher up. He's like, well, I think I'm as high up as it goes. And yeah, that was the last interview.
That is use the accent. I think it's, I got, Jared, you do the accent. You do the accent.
I'll do it.
All right, good morning. How are you doing today? Oh, wonderful. Yes. All right, who's this young man right here? What are you doing here?
Yeah, it's pretty spot on.
Yeah, that's spot on. That was individual.
That was individual, yes.
So of course that was he hired me on the spot, right?
Sorry?
He hired me on the spot, of course.
Yeah, he actually pulled out. I don't think he was supposed to do this technically. Now that I've worked in the industry, I realized this was probably a no-no. But he pulled out 3 storyboards, 3 concept boards rather, and for a snack brand, which I know you know what I'm talking about at the time.
Yeah.
And put them out on the boardroom table in front of me and told me to choose one that I think they should present at the next client meeting, right? And I chose one, and he said, "Good answer. That's the one the client went with." I was like, "So wait, had already presented this?" And he's like, "Yep. I just wanted to know what you'd say." I was like, "All right, well,
oh my,
this one."
Goodness. Okay.
And that was something your listeners wouldn't understand. But an inside pun here is that was an epic day for me.
Yeah, I didn't know that story. I never asked you. I don't think we ever got around to sitting down and talking over beers or whatever. But yeah, but that's great because this is one of the things that Jared might relate his own story. But when I got the job at McCann, I was also being asked to go and work for another agency. And I told them, well, I'll think about it. And this same individual said, "Do you want the job?" And I said, "Are you going to give me a contract?" He said, "Here's a contract." And I told the other people, well, sorry, I already got a job at the agency. And they were very, very upset. They're like, no. And I was looking at 9/11 stuff because of the 20th anniversary. And one of the guys, the fireman who survived, said it was a choice. You either go up the building or down the building. Up meant you died, and down meant you survived. And it was the same thing. There's a choice between whether you take this contract or you take another contract. And
you could never. Sorry.
And giving you a choice like that with a storyboard is like, well, there's a 50-50 chance you would get it right or wrong. And I think it was just...
33% because there was 3.
I really don't think that. Did you really think that that what you chose, he was really true about saying, or he was just saying that because they had already decided that they were going to hire you? Because that's what I think.
I later got put to work on that same brand, so I learned that's exactly what we were going with, the one I chose. So I was kind of...
Right. Well,
and to be fair, part of it was because part of the reason they wanted to hire me so young is because they had target market brands that I was part of. So they wanted a writer who could kind of understand the market. So I guess part of him asking me that was, do you really represent the target market we're looking at?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. One of the things that was told to me as a comment, let's read a little bit of mail.
Mail? We have mail?
Let's got some mail here. Hold on, wait. Let me call it up. Okay. To Ian at redesigns.pro.
What a revelation.
Please stop talking. Oh wait, no, not that one. Have you heard about your car's extended warranty? No, not that one.
That's the wrong one too. Yeah.
That's the wrong one.
Could you talk about people being hired? I'm going to read the whole thing, but could you talk about people being hired to do more than one job? And I think what I'm trying to get at is that they hired you to kind of help with because you were the target market. So it's kind of twofold. They wanted you to do the job, yes, but it also the added benefit, which is cool, no problem, of you knowing target. So that's a 2-in-1. But right now, people are being hired now. Like, I think if you went for an interview, they're going to ask you, can you write? Can you do artwork? Can you do voiceovers? Can you do? And you do. Apparently, these agencies are now starting to hire people with multiple or one person to do 3 and 4 people's jobs. You see, and this is one of the things that people have been saying. Well, you need to talk about that on your podcast. Well, I don't want to talk about it too much now, but it brought in that idea where you were kind of brought in not to do 3 people's jobs, but to kind of help the old fogies like us understand.
Yeah,
and I don't think I understood you at all to begin with. You were like completely alien to me.
Honestly, when I first got the job, right, and I'll touch on what you just said because I feel like that's a very important discussion. Like I feel like it came up in one of my classes just recently, and it's a discussion that people are two-sided on. Like one side of the fence is this way, and the other side is the other way. But I mean, writers get hired in Trinidad to do multiple jobs. Aside from the whole, the twofold thing you talk about, like me being within the market and to write, they really, the job to me when I got it was a chance to make some money. I didn't really care about it as a career. I didn't think I would be studying it for 4 years in the cold ass New York. I didn't think any of that would be happening. Sorry if the language is
I'm very happy that you actually did make that choice, and I wouldn't say I'm proud of you. I'm not your dad, but I'm very happy that you did do that because to me that is a big achievement, and congratulations. You did graduate, right?
I have not graduated yet. I'll be graduating December, so soon enough.
Good.
Excellent.
Go on. Yes, go on.
Yeah. So I think that's both a good and a bad idea. I think if you're hiring people with multiple, because as you can attest to, not just writers, but artists and various other, even like account executives and stuff where we worked at all together. And I'm assuming in the industry as a whole is not as departmentalized as it is in the States, right? You do a lot more than your job most of the time. You are a voice director as a writer, a video director, you know what I mean? Like you have to think about what the visuals will look like before the artist even starts working on it, just so you can know how to mold the idea. You know, you're an idealist. You're a lot of different things. And hiring people who have that kind of experience where they know what they're talking about when they're talking to an art director and they know the whole scope of the business. That's an important thing. But hiring people with the intention of having them do multiple jobs, there's a reason bigger agencies don't work that way. And if they're starting to work that way, you're going to find watered down products. That's what I think is inevitable.
Absolutely.
You're right. You are so right. Spot on. No, I mean, he's right. He is absolutely right. It's like a variation of that old saying, too many cooks spoiling the broth, that kind of thing. You need to have somebody who specializes in particular aspects of advertising, not just in terms of writing, but in terms of coming up with ideas and storyboards and what have you. It's all well and good to be extremely gifted in certain facets as it relates to what it is we're doing with respect to advertising. But by the same token, you don't want to have a watered down execution of a particular ad or concept or whatever it is that we're doing as it pertains to advertising. That's just my own humble take on it, really.
Yeah, that's it. So Randall, tell us what your first impression of working in the agency. What was your first? How did you feel after the first week, for example? I mean, do you even remember? Because Randall, I remember you being stressed out for a good while in the beginning, and then you found your groove. You found your groove, and then when we got put together, as I was telling Joy, when we got put together in that side agency, which is very complex to talk about without naming names, but Randall and I ended up in a side company as part of the main company because of something else. We ended up working very closely together, and it was quite fun. I think it was really stressed, but it was fun. It was one of the most engaging times that I had working in the agency for a long time. But apart from that, can you remember what was your first impressions? So that young people who getting into the job of getting into an agency, what did you expect, and what was the reality?
Like I said, going into it, I did not know that advertising was a job. I legit didn't know what they were hiring me to do. I kind of had some idea based on the interviews, based on looking at the choosing which one they wanted to go with on the mood boards. But when I got to work and I started like being briefed by, creative director and writer in charge of me and all that stuff, I started realizing this job is fun. Like, it's a lot of fun. That was my first impression. Because, so funny story, anecdotally, this first week, I get pulled into a conference room with a camera and two other men. And normally that's a bad way to start a story, but it ended up pretty good, right? Because, listen, I was a human vacuum. I can't go into details because we actually presented it to the public and all that.
I remember this.
When on your first week you turn into a human vacuum.
That was the first week?
And they paying you to do it. I was like, I coming back next week, Jed. Like, I gonna be here every day. Like, the prospect of, I'm a naturally creative person, and I don't mean like good creative. I just mean creative as in I'm constantly creating in my head on paper. That's just who I am since a daydreamer, since I'm in school. So you telling me that I get to take those daydreams and make them a reality, sell them to people and make money doing it? That's my job?
Yeah.
Like, sign me up.
Yeah. That's true.
So it was a lot of fun. And it wasn't just the writing. You got to, literally get your hands dirty. I put my hands on the floor, did a handstand, had a next man hold my legs and pretend that I was a vacuum to suck snacks off the ground.
We were looking for those ads and they deleted them, huh?
Oh, that's terrible.
I know.
It's a travesty. It is a travesty.
And I always said that I should have kept a copy. And I will have to ask Sean, because Sean might have a copy. I'll have to ask him. I keep forgetting. Yeah. Because I'm pretty sure it's somewhere on a CD somewhere inside of that office. Yeah. I could ask Johnny, but the thing is, we coming off of what we talked about last week with Timmy was that we don't keep any of these things. So that ad you talking about wasn't even an ad.
No.
It was supposed to be quote unquote the creative
viral. Yeah.
Let's call it. Let's make it viral.
Yes, because that's something you can do, right? Like, I love that statement.
Oh, Jesus Christ. But anyway, to come back, I didn't know that was the first week. That's awesome. I didn't know that was the first week. Why did I think that you were there for quite a while?
Nah, that was early. And all the trash, I could trash talk the creative director at that time for days. All you know that. I love to make fun of that man. But he was the one, really and truly, who encouraged that kind of atmosphere. He was the one who would be like, just pick up a camera if you have an idea and go and shoot it. Get it done. We'll worry about editing.
He used to say that, but Jared and I always used to end up being on the wrong side of that too, because I was
They get cuss. Because what about that thing I gave you yesterday? And but the environment, in other words, we could have had a boss who was like, stay at your desk, give me what I want. He will encourage you as a trap, but at least you get to have some fun while,
No, it's true. It's true. I mean, we rag on him a lot, but there were times where you could tell because he's middle management. He has to be one way with the department and one way with the management, and it's difficult because I've been in that situation when I was working at the small startup agency in 2018. I ended up in that situation, and I knew exactly what he was going through. But I mean, I told myself I wasn't going to do the same thing. I was just going to be I was like, if this is how, again, that's why I left, because it was no longer fun. And that's why I left the agency too, because it was no longer fun. And I have not found a fun atmosphere like that since. And it's a little depressing, but that's why Jared and I do this podcast too, because we want to bring in people and we kind of want to have a little fun doing this kind of stuff, even if to just kind of relive the glory days.
Speaking of fun, I remember, now this happened in 2013. I remember this so well. Do you remember, Randall, the Carnival Friday 2013? Do you remember it at all?
You're asking me dates like I'm a man who remembers anything. I don't remember nothing.
Let me refresh your memory. Let me refresh your memory, young man.
Yeah.
There was a time, okay, Carnival Friday, picture it, Carnival Friday, 2013. I think we had lunch. The agency had bought several rotis, remember?
Coming back.
Randall had a roti. Man, my boy polished it off like nobody's business. And you know what happened after that, Randall? You suffered from a terrible case of ethnic fatigue.
Oh yeah, no, I remember the memes now. I remember the pictures that came after. That's what you get for working with talented artists. That's what you get. You can't fall asleep anywhere on any couch.
You can't, because
I don't remember Randall's and I remember Dominic's soon, but what were some of the things that they did for Randall?
I was a mermaid. I was playing steel pan. I did everything. I hope they still have those. I hope somebody still has those.
I think we would have kept those things, would have been somebody like Sean.
They was on Facebook, but that was my old profile, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think
Renee might have them too on her profile.
Renee might have them, yeah. But that was good times.
But okay, so we talked about the good times. What was one of the times that you really thought, I want to quit this job because I hate it so much? I mean, I don't know if you don't need to go into specifics, but were there any times that you ever thought, you see that man here and I just want to cuff him down?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I left a dent in the creative director's door. That was this is a personal pet peeve thing. So it's not like a advertising as a whole discussion. But me personally, if you insult me, that's fine. But don't insult my integrity as a human being. And one of those things I take personally is you calling me a liar, right? Mm-hmm. And I had presented some work, and basically the creative director, being young and being how I was in the beginning, the creative director had a kind of view of me like I was his son.
Yeah.
And he made the mistake of overstepping that boundary too far one day. And yeah, I was going to get either fired or arrested. So,
wow. That I did not know. Wow.
I let neither happen. I punched the door and it left like my knuckle print on the side of the door. And I went outside and I sweated out and I came back and we had a talk after, and he was like, I could fire you for that. And I was like, yeah, of course, but you're not going to. Because you called me a liar in my face and I can't take that. But that was really and truly, it was hardly ever the work. The work 2 times. One time we lost a specific account, a banking account at the time. And I had spent about 2 weeks with the international client sitting down in meetings.
Yeah, I related that story. I related that story because that was when we kept presenting image after image after image, and they kept going to. That was I call that the evergreen meetings. Because the kept talking about evergreen.
Evergreen,
that's an evergreen concept. And I didn't know what he was talking. Did you know what he was talking about? Up
to now, we were just nodding and smiling, like, yeah, okay, we'll bring you evergreen.
It was like 7:00 at night, and we were just like, I just want to go home. We'd been there since 2 in the afternoon. And
it was whole day meetings.
We were just going around in circles.
And they wouldn't even meet at our agency. We had to physically drive to this place, sit down and listen to this, go back, work on it, bring it back. It's like, oh God, no. And then they didn't end up with us at the end of it. That was one of the moments where I hate, sometimes in life I say I don't try really hard at things, because if I try and fail I feel worse than if I didn't try at all.
Yeah.
I tried really, really hard.
Yeah, we did. I remember
and that's why failing felt so bad. It felt like
well, it's like what Captain Picard said in Star Trek. You can do your best to not make mistakes, and you still lose.
Yeah.
And that's not bad. That's just life.
Yeah.
Try.
Because at the end of the day, both Jared and Randall, my feelings were that we were never going to get that account. They just did that on purpose because it was not just a test. It was not just a test. They already knew that we weren't going to be able to do it. So it was a kind of setup. But I think the local client was kind of hoping that we would pull a miracle out of our ass.
Yeah. Hail Mary shot. No, it didn't work.
I get you. I remember working with our same English manager very closely with the new digital manager girl who they brought in. Hello, Rishma, who is in Japan. She may never hear this, but if she does, hi.
Senator. She'd be happy to.
We all sat down together and worked on a pitch for a pizza company. And from the out the gate, the general manager's like, we're not getting this account. So I was like, well, why are we doing this? Because we have to try. I was like, all right, well, sure, no problem. And we did everything that we possibly could. But at the end of the day, they were never going to go just because they weren't going to be willing to, they could not pay us. Essentially, that was it. They could not pay us. Right? But this person needed to go back to their bosses and said, well, I've done my job by getting 3 pre-presentations.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, I plan to open an agency, and a lot of those decisions that I have heard general managers make that I never agree. It's hard to agree with those decisions because agencies are built basically, you work in tandem with your accounts personnel, right? And your finance people, you work with them. But sometimes it feels like you're working against them because they represent the client and you represent your work, right? So some of the decisions they make like that, like, you're going to really make me sit down sometimes on a Saturday or late at night on a Friday, right? And work on this pitch that we're not going to get.
Yeah, it's hard.
But it's a chance. It's a chance for money, right? It's a chance for income. It's a chance that, we could hire new people. We could buy new equipment, whatever.
I remember something similar along the lines where this is before your time. You never met David Aldred. He was a copywriter there before you. I think he'd come in a couple of times, white guy. Anyway, David Aldred was heading off this pitch for the Lotteries Control Board. And we kind of knew that we weren't going to get the whole account, but we wanted the whole account. And we were being pushed to do the job to get the whole account. And we had a fun time, awesome time doing the work for the Playway account. But that's not the account we wanted. We wanted the lottery account. We wanted the big one. And we did such a great job on the account that we didn't want, that we won that, you see? But we didn't win the whole thing, and it was a little sad because we spent so much time when we could have just focused. But you see, management was like, we want the whole thing. We're going to go for the whole thing, and that's a strategy and a strategic situation, whatever. I mean, there have been many cases of going after accounts and pitching for accounts. I remember early in my career, we were pitching for. Jared, do you remember Capiche? You know Capiche? Capiche Furniture Store. You remember Capiche? They're from South.
I remember Capiche's Furniture Store, but I don't remember us ever working on it,
well,
to be honest.
Do you know Singer? You remember Singer had a furniture store too? You remember Singer?
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. I remember that.
Singer was did a request for proposal for agencies to handle their business against courts, right? So this is before your time. This is before Ronald's time. We were working almost 24 hours on this pitch. And then the morning of the pitch, they came and they said, we can't pitch for this anymore. Why not? Well, Singer just got bought out by Capiche. So that's the Edge agency. So they have all the business now.
Good Lord.
This is the one swoop we
Good
lost.
Lord.
We didn't even gain the account. We didn't even get a chance to gain the account. We lost it.
Is that legal though? Isn't that like a way to circumvent an RFP though?
I don't know. In that case, it was completely. I think even Capiche closed down eventually.
That's true.
I think even the other agency, I named them, but that's okay. I think the other agency, they were shocked too, because they didn't expect to suddenly get all this business, because they were a small outfit, you know. So I mean, the thing about it is it's luck. This Dennis Ramlin from Pepper had always said, you know, you go. You sometimes you don't even look for it and it lands in your lap, and I'm like, okay, cool, that's great. You know, so it's just how life is. It's again coming back to whether you choose one of these three storyboards and you choose the right one. It's just
right.
You know,
I'd just like to say, since this is my only chance to brag on our podcast, that the legendary Lotto and Playway accounts that are never together at once, I managed to get at once. I just want to remind you. That's honestly, I know one of the questions was one of your proudest moments, but that was one of my proudest moments, because our general manager made the same statement saying, you know, we're not getting both, so don't even worry about it. Just do your best, right?
Yeah, right.
I'm not taking credit for it, because, you know, it's a whole team of people who worked on this, right? Including, Mark and all those guys. But being part of the team that won both, when we even the NLCP people were basically telling us, you know, it's unlikely to get two accounts that size, and blah blah blah. But we got both. We won the Lotto and we won the Playway, and I was like, damn, that was a pretty good moment, man.
Well done. I think I don't recall that though. Why don't I remember that? Anyway,
I actually still have the ads. I'll send you. It's good stuff.
Yeah, so what you were there for about 4 years. What finally made you decide to go and study? I think that's a good question of what possessed you to suddenly decide, because there were times where I thought to myself, and I'm pretty sure Jared has too, that why don't I just go back
all the time.
Go back to school, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have always said, well, I have kids, so it's kind of hard. But you are young and you're thing. But you worked for 5 years and then decided to go back to school. And what is your degree in? What is the degree?
Advertising and marketing communications.
Right. So you said, look, you know, F this. I'm out. I'm gone. And why?
It's a little bit.
What happened, or
it's a little bit twofold, right? Two different things. One is, at the time, we had lost a big account and they were letting people go. I'm sure you know, remember that whole shebang, right?
Yeah.
So there was it was a time where a lot of people I was close with at the company were going to be let go or leave or those kind of things, right? Yeah. And I was curious, based on my time there, if it was going to be a first in, first out situation.
Yeah.
So I actually had early talks with the general manager and creative director about it, saying, you know, is that going to happen? And it was up in the air for a while. And towards the end, I was told, no, you're not being cut.
Yeah.
That's when the other part of it, the twofold part of it came in, is at the same time, I was looking at, basically, I got tired of, I was a senior copywriter, and it's something I fought very hard for because other people have worked longer and not achieved that, right? And I really pushed for the title more than, because I didn't get a raise with it. I pushed for the title just because I wanted to have it. It was like a goal for me. And when I got it, I was like, so now I'm a senior copywriter and I work on big projects and I'm trusted with a lot more responsibility than I ever was. But there's still some conversation, some terms Stephen would use, or, you know what I mean? Like that I would be kind of lost on, or I would have an opinion on, but not, I knew enough about it to argue, but not enough to know I was right.
Yeah.
And that's something I knew I could only really get from, you know, a degree, going back to school and being taught the fundamentals of something that I kind of just jumped into. So I wanted to learn the theory behind the practical that I had already been practicing. So it was those two things and coming together that caused that to happen.
That's good. And when you went and you started in New York, you obviously dealing with a lot of people who, like, you just came out of school kind of situation. You were like old hand.
Oh, yeah.
So how did that feel? How was that?
I was a little lucky in that arena because I didn't go straight to university. When I got there, this was actually a crushing moment for me, but it ended up being a good thing. I have never applied for something, the job at the agency included, and not gotten it. Ever. I've never applied for something and not gotten through. And that kind of had me in a spoiled mentality. So I only applied to one school. You know, people coming out of high school in America and stuff, even in Trinidad, they are applying to 15 different schools minimum.
Yeah.
Right. Just hoping for options. Right.
Yeah.
I applied to one. I was so sure this is the one I'm going to. This is the one I want. That's it. Didn't get in. So I ended up at a community college, which is a lot more skewed in terms of age range. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I didn't feel like a complete old timer because it was like I'm among some 50-year-olds who coming back to finish a certain course.
Yeah.
So I had to ease into it. Then when I got to the teens and stuff in Manhattan, that was, I was like, okay, I'm afraid to talk to any of these girls because I might get a charge. You know what I mean? I'd invite you out for drinks, honey, but I don't know if you can drink legally. So that's a problem.
Yeah.
I'd invite you back to my place where you could definitely drink legally, but then I probably would be going to jail. So let's just not do this. That was the only awkwardness, really. Besides that, it was fun.
What was I going to ask? What I was saying is that actually, that's interesting because I had applied, I'd gotten a B in my bonnet and I applied to Savannah College of Art and Design thinking, I'll get in to do that, man. I have 20 years experience in the agency. I got a letter. I'm sorry, we cannot consider you for this, for the, I'm like, oh, well, whatever. And it was just, and the thing about it is, in my mind, it probably was for the best. Because I was just searching, but you're right. You don't just go and apply to one school. You go and apply to all these different schools. And I just being lazy at this stage in my life. But but coming back to finishing up now. So your plan is from January of 2022 is what? What are you gonna do?
Well, I don't know because I've been applying for jobs since I'm only doing one course right now. I was doing kind of two. One at University of Phoenix and one at FIT simultaneously. One was started earlier and one started later, so they were kind of overlapping. One just finished and I'm on my last course. So basically it's an online course. I have no actual class times. Basically what I was thinking is start applying for jobs from now. There's no reason why you can't.
Sure.
And I have been.
Makes sense.
And one of the things you should consider in case any listener ever listens and decides they want to transition from Trinidad to international markets. Focus, and you probably know this already, but focus on that portfolio. Like every single thing you do, take it, save a JPEG, save a video file, catalog what it means, what it meant, who the client was, and keep, because I have a portfolio of stuff that I scrambled off my computer and threw onto a Squarespace site that I developed. And it is haphazard. It's all over the place. I think it looks neat and nice, but an employer wants to see campaigns. They want to know how you can take something from a print to digital to radio. They want to see all in 9 yards. And I have snippets. I think that's why I'm not getting jobs.
That's true. That is true. I mean, we're all in the same boat. None of us, I don't have that anymore. I have been started the agency business. I mean, it's very difficult to go back into a position where you have to present, you have to show work, because I was asked at an interview, well, can you do a campaign? I'm like, I worked for McCann for 20 years. Actually, in the job that I was in before, a little bit after McCann, coming down to the end when things got to get sour, the office manager, he asked you, well, I didn't know that you don't know how to present a client. I'm like, of course I know how to sell to a client. I've done it before. He's like, yeah, but you've never done it here. I'm like, because you never asked me to. Because you all know what you're all doing and you all never asked me to. And when I've suggested that you say no, I don't know what I'm doing. It's very difficult to kind of, at least for me, to kind of get people to understand that, and I just didn't come out of school yesterday.
Yeah.
I have some experience. You have 5 years experience at one of the top agencies in the world. It's difficult for people to kind of wrap their heads around that because all they're getting is CVs and resumes from guys coming out of school who are 17, 18, 19. They don't know. It's hard. It's hard.
Artists have it a little easier than writers. Now, I'm saying that mainly out of self-defense and just, I don't know, covering material. Because really and truly, writers have to work just a little bit harder, but not that much harder. But portfolio development, it's easier to make visuals look good, right? Yeah. And put them up and sell an idea.
Yeah.
To showcase your ability to write, you really had to have done stuff, normally collaborations with artist or a videographer or whatever.
Yeah.
So to properly answer your question for what my plan is for next year, my plan is to start making content, whether that's content to sell or content just to say I did it and I'm proud of this and I put it in my portfolio.
Well, that's interesting because
that's
exactly what Jared and I did when we started this podcast. We just called Jared up and I said, Jared, let's do it. And I think you just doing it is great. And I think what might help is if you could just jump on regular with us because we're putting this stuff out. We already have people who hear us. Ogilvy just reshared something that Asma said. So they kind of pushing our stuff. Thank you very much, Ogilvy. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ogilvy. We appreciate you. Thank you.
We do have people in the industry who are kind of listening to us. And we want to get more people. Like I want to try to bring people like Dennis and Jared and I are even considering getting somebody from the agency to come and talk, but we don't know how that's going to come out. But yeah, I mean, you're always welcome to come here and we could do something on the podcast where one of the things I want to do, I think Jared and I discussed it, is actually brainstorming something. So like if we had an ad, because we don't really talk about creating an ad. I mean, we kind of talked about ads that we worked on and the shit that went down where people started to cry and say you don't like, you remember who it is? So it was this girl who went into the office and started to cry. And then the creative director came out and told me what to do. What do I do? She's crying. I'm like, what did you tell her? He's like, I just told her that what she did was crap. I'm like,
okay, Gordon Ramsay, calm down. Jeez.
I'm like, so we talk a lot about not exactly the actual creation, but if we did a radio script together brainstorm, which is the one thing that Jared and I say we're missing. That like let's figure out a brief and say, well, look, how would we write this ad and help these people out? That might help you with your content. I don't know. It's something to think about. We have a problem helping out like that. Yeah.
To throw a curveball into that whole idea, because I like the idea, right? What if maybe we do it regularly the first time, but what if it is, and this is the one I really want you to call me for, is fan-based briefs, right? So ask somebody to come up with a brief, send it in, we pick one, right? So you have some interaction with your fans, your listeners, and at the same time, we are put on the spot, not just to create something, but to create something they're challenging us to create. I think that would be a lot of fun.
I just don't want to work on a brief. I just don't want to work on a brief that somebody sends in that they then end up using and we don't get paid for it.
Facts. Facts. But it'll be on the podcast for them to know, so it'd be kind of hard for them to use it.
So yeah, that's something that definitely is something to think about. I have a couple of people who have suggested some things, but I'm like, you're not serious. You want me to like, okay, so one of my clients, so just to be fun, one of my clients sells sex toys.
Right.
And she always says it's very difficult to come up with ideas and content. And I'm like, you're selling something that somebody could easily buy.
You don't remember that campaign we did?
That's what I told her. I told her that I had done something like that already. But I don't, you see, the other thing is, like you said earlier, I don't even have a copy of that. And I'm so pissed off because I don't know why I never kept a copy of it, because it was a brilliant pitch. The two of us came up with that pitch together and it was awesome. I mean, Ronaldo was just like, making fun of us and telling us that we were what perverts and whatever.
Yeah. But it was good stuff. It was really good stuff
because we were doing it within the bounds of a strategy. It was an important strategy. So yeah, maybe we could do that. Maybe I could go back to Rona and say, Rona, we'll give you a little freebie if you tell us, if you want to. Maybe we could come up with, if we had to do a radio, how would we do a radio? I don't know.
Right, if it had to be mass media where kids could be listening.
You have to think of something. But there are other things, obviously, like what Jared and I do is we kind of look at the ads that have come out and say, well, we could have done a better job. So maybe we could do that as well. Say, well, all right, this ad, if we were presented with the brief for this ad, what would we do? So we could also try that as well and make it sound like, trying to help you out here. Don't think we,
No, but another way to look at ads that I've only started doing from school, and as a quick comment, because honestly, most of what I've learned in school doesn't hold a candle to what we actually do in the agency. I feel like if someone gets a bachelor's right now in marketing or advertising, leaves school and goes to work in an agency, they're going to have a rude awakening. And actually, we saw that a couple of times with some interns who had just finished or were finishing school. That girl I can't stand, for example, wow, she was full of herself. Like, anyway, I kind of lost what I was saying.
I think she's a brand manager now, Randall.
I am so happy for her. I hope she is managing that brand to the best of her ability. But full of herself is an understatement. Like, I don't know. But yeah, something to look at with ads that I only learned from school, which is one of the positive things I learned from school, is consider also what that brief might have been compared, not just the brief, the client would have said about it based on what you wanted to present versus what they probably ended up having to present. You know what I mean? Because it's easy to look at an ad and be like, yeah, we could have done this better. But what if they already did?
Yeah.
Clients change and pervert ideas into...
And distort.
Yeah, it makes it nonsensical.
You remember, we had talked about, I don't know if you had listened to some of the earlier episodes. We're not making it a mandatory, but listeners, you do have to go and listen to it. Not Randall. You who listen to all. But earlier we had talked about... that coming back to that same viral campaign that we did the video with you doing the vacuum. We had gone through so much stress with that in the end. And I'll relate the story again. Do you remember, I think you do, that the client had quit the job.
Yeah.
And he had written an email to the client services manager at the time and said how we I had mentioned this before in the podcast before. He had said that we had insulted his religion because we had taken a room with Beaker and said, I am the Alpha and the Omega. And he said that he got very, very upset at it. And that just put the icing on the cake for that whole campaign, because we were doing really well in the beginning. And then they came in and they started picking it apart.
Yeah. And it was a nonsensical campaign in terms of it was marketed to kids. Like, it's marketed to be silly and fun and entertaining.
Yeah.
And that was the whole thing. That was the intent. That was the intent of the campaign.
If you take that and micro analyze it, you're gonna find things you don't want to find that aren't even there, honestly.
But again, I don't know if they talked about, you're talking about the difference between being in an agency and being in school. I don't know, in the school with the case studies and whatever, do they ever tell you that the client's personalities always get in the way? So this guy is very much against the idea because personally he's offended, but it's not for you.
Exactly.
He's offended, Ophelia. He's offended.
No, but yeah, exactly what you just said, word for word. I don't know how you made it to be a marketing manager or anything like that if you don't understand the fundamental principle of target marketing. Like it is, the target is what matters. What you think is irrelevant, I am sorry.
Absolutely.
But ask
your child.
But it's even worse now with digital advertising. It's even worse now with digital advertising. And I say this over and over and over on the podcast, that you have to know your target like it's your best friend. So you, Randall, 25, 26-year-old, 27-year-old, whatever, you live in Florida, you like to go to the beach, you like chicks, you're a gamer. That is the personality. So I want to sell snacks to you. I got to talk to you on that level. So I need to feed a Facebook ad or a Google ad speaking to you. And when they say, well, I never see the ad, I don't see the ad, you're a 45-year-old man in Trinidad. Obviously, you're not going to see the ad.
Back to the brag, right? In the pitch for the NLCP stuff, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if it was the chairman. I think someone said it was the chairman of that board asked me a question midway through our presentation, which really tripped me up. And I thought it was kind of unprofessional for him to ask the question in the first place. A, it was done in a rude manner. It was like to shut me up midway through a sentence. And B, we only have, I don't know how long the pitch was, but it was 15 minutes or whatever you have to present everything. So we're on a timer. There's somebody in the hallway behind us ready to present, and you are, stopping me mid-presentation. So it was very rude, I thought. The way he did it was kind of disrespectful. And he was basically calling me out as being a kid. That I don't understand the Playway brand. I don't understand how it works enough. So his question was, what is Capiche? Right? And I don't know if I would be this... sometimes you have a moment of clarity. I don't know if I'll be this clear if it happened again, but at that moment I was proud of myself because he was asking me, what is Capiche? And I really didn't know. And the first thing that popped into my head was, like those, I think it's Italian mobsters would be like, Capiche? Like you understand? So I joked and I was like, I don't know, you mean like you understand? And I did the whole Italian fingers thing,
Yeah.
And the whole room breaks out in laughter and whatever. And he's like, so you expect me, because he stopped me basically by saying, hold on. Stop what you're saying. Do you know what Capiche is? And he's like, so do you expect me to listen to any more of what you have to present if you are the person who came up with this campaign and doesn't even understand the basic idea of the game? I'm like, wait, hold up. What do you mean I don't understand the basic idea of the game? And I went into explaining the entire game to him because when we research something on the job, we know more about the brand sometimes than the brand managers, right?
Yeah.
We go deep into that stuff. So I knew
because that is what the agency is supposed to do. I keep telling brand managers, that's what you hire the agency. You hire the agency to do the work that you can't do.
To see it from a different angle, all kind of way. So my response was, sir, do you care? You're trying to reach a new market with this Playway brand, right? He's like, yes. It's like, okay, if you're trying to reach a new market because your old market is eventually going to die out and inevitably there's going to be no more game if there are no more players. And I am the market you're trying to reach. If I am telling you that this is what's going to sell to the new players, do you care if the new players know what Capiche is? Or do you care if they buy and Playway? And he said, well, young man, I care if they buy and Playway, so please continue. And I was like, all right, well, let me keep talking then because, and I honestly think that's part of what's helped us. Like, well, first of all, we wouldn't have been able to continue if he had shut us up there. But we won both accounts, right? So it's like just pay attention to who we're targeting, not who we have now, not who your loyal customer is. We know them. We have them.
Yeah.
Let's talk about who we're targeting. Because if you're paying for a communication, any kind of marketing communication, you're paying for it with a purpose. You're either trying to reach a new market, dig deeper into that market, reclaim a market, whatever it is, there's a specific purpose. So don't act like you're supposed to go based on a one size fits all.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The target.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, this is why we have this podcast, because we want to get it out there. I've listened to a lot of podcasts or even a lot of live, people talking on LinkedIn and they're all saying the same things that we're saying. But I think we know what we're talking about. We've been in this thing. We've been in the trenches. We've experienced it. This is not theory. We've been in the practical, right? But also we want to do it in such a way that it doesn't sound like, we buffing people up and telling them, hey, oh, you're full of shit, stop talking nonsense, listen to us. No, this is what our experience are. We like to relive the experience and share it. And it's funny because at the end of the day, I kind of have to laugh at some of these things, right? Because you're dealing with people and we have a culture that laughs at ourselves. So I don't have a problem, kind of laughing at it now because it's happened and it's in the past, and we're not calling anybody out specifically and calling their names and saying anything like that. But the experiences matter, and I think, Jared, don't you agree?
Oh, I absolutely. Look, it's been when it comes to advertising, sometimes it's a straight case of trial and error. And more often than not, it's error. But and that's where you get the the moments where people tend to challenge their inner Gordon Ramsay to steal a line from what Randall was saying. And but when you get the opportunity to hit that sweet spot, when you get that chance to fulfill the goal of what the dictates of the ad is supposed to be about, what the brief is supposed to be about. Once you can do that, you've struck gold. Yeah. And that's something that they can't take that away from you. So you celebrate the wins. You celebrate as however infinitesimal they may seem at the time. You celebrate them. And you try to capitalize on what it is that you know and what you're capable of.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you second guess yourself, and sometimes we tend to overthink a lot. And what we do is also it's extremely subjective, because sometimes we think, okay, what might be great to us is not going to be great to somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's just a chance that we're going to have to take. Risk is just one of the key components of what we did in terms of advertising. And that's something that if you're a young person and you happen to have the misfortune of listening to us talk right now, because you've got nothing else better to do, if you're listening to us and you want to get into advertising, just be aware that there are times when you're going to fall flat in your ass. And accept it. But at the same time, if you know what you're about and you're willing to take the lumps, you can just say, hey, wait a minute, you know what? This is something that I enjoy doing. And if you genuinely enjoy what you're doing, if you genuinely enjoy the environment that you're in, and you can thrive on that kind of energy, and you can feed off that energy, go for it. Go for it.
Right, that's great. Jared, Randall has to run off, so we're going to wrap this thing up. But Randall, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Randall. Appreciate it.
We're going to have Randall come back. Two things I want to talk about again is awards, because we have to talk about awards when we talk about recognition and so on, awards. And the other thing we want to talk about is absolutely what we said. Let's brainstorm something later. So we have a couple more episodes before we finish the season. And we'll we'll bring Randall back in, and maybe we'll bring Tracy in as well and have a nice little session. So Randall, thank you so much.
Sure.
Jared, usually what happens at the end of this, we find a word that we've talked about, the theme of this show, and we give a definition for it. So what are we defining today?
What are we defining today? Let's see. We are talking about first impressions.
First impressions.
First impressions.
Yeah. So what's a first impression, John?
Well, the first impression is that feeling you get when you find yourself in a new environment and you don't know what's going to happen, and it has a kind of effect on you. And where do you take it from there? But that's not important
right now. All right, guys, thank you for listening. Please subscribe, follow the whole shebang. Randall, please share this with your friends, and we'll definitely have you back on.
Will do.
All right.
Hey, good to have
All
you,
right,
man.
guys. Thanks for having me.
Okay.
See you
Bye,
later.
John.
Bye, Ian. Peace. Blessings.
Peace.